So again, as always, I'm very glad to be here with you all. The crazy people that want to talk about literature in a Saturday afternoon, right? And who are actually crazy enough to do that by discussing Heart of Darkness, right, by Joseph Conrad, a book that is fascinating, but it's also quite difficult. I will listen to your complaints in just a few minutes, right? But when I sit down to reread the book to prepare the class, I was like, oh gosh, I should have chosen this one to be the second book rather than the first, because it would be good for us to do some talking before for you not to be too afraid. Okay, this is a very confusing read. It is confusing on purpose. And so today we'll try to untangle, to unpack many of the difficulties, and hopefully the second part will be much easier for all of you, okay? Yeah, Heart of Darkness, great classic. Joseph Conrad, pretty interesting author. We'll talk a little bit about his biography today. Sometimes we don't talk about biography here in a book a month. Sometimes we do. And today it is one of such days. But before we get there, today is our first class, right? So I'm getting to meet some of you. Some of you have been with us for some time already. So for those of you that are new, welcome. I'm Áureo, okay? Áureo Lustosa Guérius is my name. I'm one of the teachers in here in a book a month. I'm a PhD in literature, okay? I've graduated in Universidade Federal do Paraná in Curitiba quite a few years ago. Then I took my master's in Italy in medieval literature, okay, medieval Italian literature. So originally I'm studying Italian literature. I studied Dante in the Divine Comedy. Then I took my PhD in Italy too, okay, in comparative literature. And now I'm doing my postdoctoral research. So I'm an associate fellow here at the University of Padua, where I studied during my PhD. So now I'm conducting my own research in here. I've been doing this for almost a year, and I'll do it for another year, right? And last but not least, actually, it's one of the most fun things I do in my life. I teach in a book a month alongside Anna, who is my wife. We've studied together in university back in 2008 or something, 2007 maybe. Anna is the creator of a book a month. When you talk to us in Instagram or in WhatsApp, very likely you were talking to her, like 95% possibility. Sometimes you may talk with me, but mostly it's her. She created the project in 2020 during the lockdown. And since then, we've been teaching literature in English. Okay, she's also a PhD in literature, and she's teaching the intermediate course and the big reads, right? The course in which they're reading the Bronte sisters, and also the short stories course, right? So she's doing much of the teaching this semester. I'm doing it a little bit less because I have my duties in the university here, right? So this is who we are. I'll ask information about you, and I'll ask you to briefly introduce yourselves in just a second. What is the school, however? Okay, so what exactly is a book a month? We try to embrace in a book a month different objectives. Not all of you are looking for the same thing with us, okay? And that's perfectly fine. What we're doing here is to teach literatures, okay? So not only literature singular, we do it in the plural, literatures in English. And this means that we teach books that were written in the UK, that were written in the USA, but also in Australia and Nigeria and India, and actually all around the globe. right? So we have a perspective that is thinking about literature as a global phenomenon, universal literature that is talking about the entire planet. Because often when we say universal literature, we mean France, England, a little bit of Germany, and that's it, right? So not even Portugal is included in universal literature. So what we want to do is to teach literature in a way that is truly planetary. However, we are doing this in English, right? So the second objective of a book a month is also to practice our foreign language, to put it to use, to talk with people in English, and to develop our language skills at the same time that we're developing, our cultural awareness, our knowledge of history, our knowledge of literature. So some of you are here because you want to study literature, and that's perfectly fine. And you would be here even if we were teaching in Portuguese, okay? Some of you are here because you're interested in English and the language practice and the language acquisition. And that's perfectly fine too, okay? So we're trying to do both things at the same time. We truly believe in this method. It's something that we practice ourselves. We speak other foreign languages, okay? And so I've been studying German for quite a few years. I'm very bad at it. And so I really wish I could find someone doing like a book a month in German. I really wish I could find that. So that's what we do. Any questions? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. So let's talk practical matters. Let me show you the calendar. Just a second. Are you seeing a blue page? Yeah. So you should have received one of these, okay? If you haven't, let us know after the class. We can send it to you. So this is the calendar for our course in the Novels Advanced course of Saturday. So you are the Saturday group. There's another group on Thursdays, okay? And you're free to come. So if you cannot come to the Saturday class, you can come to the other class, no problem. You don't even have to tell me. Just show up. The Zoom link is exactly the same. So you do everything, you follow exactly the same steps. You just present yourself at a different day and time. It's a Thursday at 7 p.m. Brasilia time. If you cannot come to either of the classes, you can still watch the recording, okay, which we make available to you a few hours after the class, sometimes the next day, okay? But usually we try to be as fast as we can with the recording. Plus, so in the calendar, you'll find all the dates and information you need. So you'll find the dates as well as which chapters you should be reading, part 1, part 2, and so on. But also recommendations on where to find the books. If you want actual books, if you want, ebooks or audiobooks. So you have plenty of opportunity there, okay, to find whatever you prefer, okay? And the last part of the calendar, you also have information regarding the office hours, okay? So the office hours, it is a time slot that we dedicated to you. It takes place twice a month. And what means is that either me or Anna will be available to you on Zoom for a one-to-one meeting, so any student of any course can come to this office hours to talk with us if you're feeling that you want some tips to improve your English, or you really loved Joseph Conrad and you want me to advise you on similar authors, for example, or you're wondering about studying abroad, things like that, okay? If we were teaching in presence, you would talk to us a little bit before the class, a little bit after the class, okay? Since we're doing this online, we don't have this opportunity to talk off record. So the idea of the office hours is to give you this opportunity, okay? Plus, you're getting extra time of English practice for free. Okay, so just show up. This semester, we already scheduled all the office hours. Okay, so you find them in here in blue. So they are happening at different days of the month and in different, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. So in different periods throughout the day to give you as much chance as possible to come to at least one of them. Okay, so if you look in here, the first one is happening on the 2nd of September, Monday morning, 9 a.m. And then the second one is happening on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Okay, so we try to scatter the office hours around to give everybody a chance to show up at some point. Okay, please come as much as you want. Also, you can find the schedule of all our courses in here at the bottom. Okay, and in the next page, you will find all the readings for all the courses. Okay, because one of our objectives in here is to allow you to search for, you know, the kinds of literature that interests you the most. Maybe you're especially interested in reading 19th century fiction. Okay, so maybe that's your thing, and so maybe you want to follow Heart of Darkness with me for a month, but then you want to move to the short stories course to read Louisa May Alcott, maybe, and then maybe you read Edith Wharton also in October in the short stories course, but then you want to read Shakespeare, and so you're going to move to the reading class course and so on. So you can find your way through the courses if you please. Okay, there's no right or wrong here. If you want to stick with me in the advanced class, I'm very glad to have you all. Okay, and I've lost enough students, so yeah, I cherish your presence very, very much. But if you want to search for new horizons, that's pretty cool too, and you can find your way through in here. Okay. Also, if things, you know, especially at the end of the semester near December, it gets very busy for everybody. So sometimes spending a month in another course could be easier on the load of reading. Okay, so you might also consider that. And finally, there's another thing I wanted to show to you, which is also a novelty. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah. So, which is this link in here? I'll send you in the chat. There we go. Okay. So if you open the link that I have just sent you in the chat, you'll find this website in here. Okay, which is a dedicated website to the Novels Advanced course. So everything we want to send to you throughout the entire semester will be here. Okay, we can edit the buttons and we can change the links and everything. So if you're looking for anything, you come to this place, and there's a very high chance that it will be here. Okay, if it's not here, it means that I forgot to put it here. It's my fault. Okay, so it should be here. And our idea is to make your life easier because you find everything in one place. So the first button, if you click here, you're gonna come to your class on Zoom. So this is the Zoom access. If you wanted our special edition, you know, Heart of Darkness is a book that is on public domain, and so we can send to you the file of this edition here with the vocabulary. Okay, so it's in English to English, but it helps you out with the vocabulary, so you can download it in here. You just click and download. If you need the calendars at any point, they're both in here, both the calendar for the Thursday group and the calendar for the Saturday. You also find the access link to the office hours that I have mentioned, you know, so you know the dates already. When the time comes for you to show up, this is the link. You just access this website and click on the button, and it will bring you there. And for those that haven't made to class today, this initial presentation, we will cut this out and put the video in here. You know, so for the new students that have not, that do not know how to find their way around, they will have this video in here public. If plus, last but not least, if you have any suggestions throughout the semester, and maybe, or even criticism, okay, Áureo is talking too fast. I don't know, anything. Or you would love to discuss Charles Dickens. I don't know. You can come to this suggestion box in here. So you can send us, you will fill a form with your suggestion or with your criticism, or with your praise if you want to thank us for something. Just do it. We'll read it. Okay. I promise we won't investigate who did it. If you don't want to, if you want it to be anonymous, that's pretty fine with us. So, but there's it's a different way for you to contact us. You can always send us a WhatsApp. We're very glad to answer. You can always come to the office hours to talk face-to-face via the internet. But if you want some anonymity, some people are shy, and that's perfectly fine. You can use this too. So it's yet another tool in our toolkit. Okay? Is everything clear? Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we've talked about the calendar already, the one link to rule them all, like the Lord of the Rings, right? You'll find one link with everything. This thesaurus edition that you can use to finish the reading of The Heart of Darkness. The other books we'll read, there are no thesaurus editions available. So what we do is we compile vocabulary builders. So we take, the words that we think might be difficult to you and grammar constructions, and we compile this list to try to help you out. So we'll send them to you, and they will also be in that link in the following months. Okay. We talked about the office hours already. You can come whenever you please. As I've mentioned, you can change the course temporarily if you need. If you couldn't do the readings, don't worry. I won't be, disappointed in you. I know that, pardon my French, shit happens, okay? So you were planning to read it, but then, your car broke down and you had to lose the entire day fixing it and you didn't have time to read it. That's perfectly fine, okay? Come to class, especially if you're finding the book challenging. Don't assume that it's your fault, okay? Sometimes we're reading and then the text mentions a character and we're like, who the hell is this person, And we immediately assume that we were sleepy in the previous page or that we lost something. And quite often, that is not the case, okay? Sometimes it is, and that's fine. Sometimes it's not the case, okay? And that happens a lot with Heart of Darkness, okay? So if you could not read it, please come to class. But be aware that there might be spoilers, okay? Are we good until now? Yeah. Last things about payment, guys. If you can do it until the 8th, it would be greatly appreciated. If you cannot, once again, shit happens. We understand it. Just let us know ahead, okay, ahead of time. So drop us a message. Hey, guys, I cannot make it to the 8th. Let's do it the 12th or let's do it the 15th. We are perfectly glad to wait, okay? We just have to know in order to organize. And in the same, going into the same direction, if you decide not to come anymore, please let us know, because sometimes, students just ghost us out, this is the downside of teaching in the internet, people suddenly disappear and you're left wondering what happened with them. So it is always good to know that you're alive and well, you just decided not to come to class anymore. So we appreciate if you can tell us. And finally, by the end of the semester, we produce certificates, okay? For you accounting for the amount of, the many months of teaching and also the amount of reading that you have done. We produce those certificates even if you haven't finished the entire semester, okay? So we will produce them anyway for 3 months, for 2 months, whatever. And if you need it before for your university or something, just let us know. We can do it in the halfway, for the half of the semester or something like that if you need. Yeah, enough of practical things. About our readings, we'll be talking about conflicts, just because there's not enough anxiety in our world, right? So we have to talk about conflicts in a book a month too. War will be appearing every now and then, but we're thinking conflicts in a broader sense. We're thinking interpersonal conflicts. We're thinking psychological inner conflicts. Literature is a way for us to think about humankind. It is a way to help us think and interpret our world, right? And as such, I think it is pretty cool for us to think, via these lenses, okay? Via the lenses of literature. It's quite interesting to think about current issues, current problems, by reading things and fictional stories about things that happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, okay? So this is what we'll try to do this semester with these fascinating reads. Some of them are about political denunciation, okay? Like Heart of Darkness. It is very much a punch in the face. Some of them are also philosophical inquiries, right? They are searching for something. They're discussing big concepts. Concepts like what is goodness, what is evil, what is justice, right? So all of these big words, they will matter for all of our readings, and I think those especially dichotomies, are the essence of Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness is giving us a lot of coupled words: savages, civilization, white and black, light and dark, violence and art, humanity. I don't know what would be the opposite of violence. Peace. So there are many dichotomies in the Heart of Darkness, and we'll be exploring those throughout this class and the next one. Okay. But this theme will continue because Atonement, for example, our next read, it is a contemporary novel, right? Ian McEwan is still alive. There is a movie about this book too. And it is a beautiful story filled with suspense. And in Heart of Darkness, we see terrible things, but those things are committed by terrible people. We know that they are quite evil in many ways. However, Atonement, something very, very bad is committed by someone who thinks she's doing something right. So what is worse? To act and produce the uttermost catastrophe. It's completely tragedy. It's tragic, but she's thinking she's doing the right thing. So isn't it even worse? Or is it okay? There are many reverberations for us to think about when we read this book. And it's really, it's great, especially the first part when there's all this suspense building up. So yeah. Our third reading, Slaughterhouse-Five, is probably the most famous of these five after Heart of Darkness, okay? So Slaughterhouse-Five was published in the US by Kurt Vonnegut in the 60s. It is an iconic book of what is called postmodernism, okay? Very funny book, okay? So we wanted some humor because there's so much sadness in these books, so we wanted some humor. This book is playing around with science fiction, which is also very interesting. The main character is a soldier in World War II, and he knows what is the meaning of life. Okay, he knows it, and he will teach us. And he knows it because he was abducted by aliens and got the ability to travel in time. So, what? Okay, so this is a mess of a book. very funny, but very serious in its attack. It's a peaceful pamphlet. You know, it's an anti-war book, very much against war in Vietnam, very much pro-peace in many levels. Okay, so it's a very humane book, although it is also not very serious. It doesn't take itself seriously. Then you will read a Nobel Prize winner, a Swedish author, Pär Lagerkvist, probably the less known of all of our authors. I'm not even sure if this book, The Dwarf, if it was translated into Portuguese. Do any of you know?
I think it was, but in Portugal, not here.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So this is something we try to do every now and then. When we read authors that have not written in English originally, we do it once in a while. Okay, like maybe 10 or 15% of everything we read in a book a month was not written in English. Because one of our ideas is precisely to make the classics a little bit bigger, and to put a little bit more justice in the group, because what we consider classics are often books that are really great. Many of the classics are amazing, but quite as often there are other books that are just as amazing or even more amazing, but they did not get into this big group of classics because of politics, because of economics, because of the gender of the author that was writing the book, or because of the sexuality of the author, or because of or the color of the author, or many other issues. We don't live in a utopia. There are many different layers of interests and ideologies that pool, for every side. And then what we consider classics is up to debate. And we really love the traditional way we study literature. I really love it. I really think there are many good things in the way we study literature in high school. But I also think there's a lot of good things in messing things a little bit, So some of the older students have already listened to me saying this. I see myself as a teacher of chaos. Okay, my job in here sometimes is to confuse you, like Chacrinha. Eu vim para confundir. This is the idea. We're messing up a little bit with the idea of the classics. Sometimes you will hear me attacking someone that you thought, wow, this guy doesn't know anything about literature. Who would ever say that this author is not magnificent? Sometimes you will hear attack, but more often than not, you will hear me or Anna too praising people that do not deserve the space, do not have the space they deserve. So this is one of such people, Lagerkvist, a writer that is existentialist, so very much like Camus or Sartre, those philosopher writers. He's writing this book in the 1944, or actually wrote it before, but it is published in 1944, right in the middle of the war. And it is often interpreted as an allegory of evil. Okay, this is a historical novel, so it will be very different from the other readings. But each one of them is very different, but collectively they will give us different insights into this whole theme of the semester, the theme of conflicts. Okay. Finally, we'll read Philip Roth, one of my favorite authors ever. Nemesis is a contemporary classic. I see it's Liana's too. The guy has written like dozens of books. Many of them are masterpieces, in my opinion. At least the ones I have read it. I did not read all of them, but I hope to do. If I live enough, I will do it eventually. Nemesis is his very last book, okay, published in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a beautiful psychological novel. Okay, it is taking place during World War II, and also a polio epidemic. So it plays around, things that we have lived through during the pandemics, lockdowns and closing the borders and attacking certain groups and so on. So it plays around on some familiar themes, but also World War II. But it's also a love story. So this is what I'm most interested in, actually, at the end of the semester, because it's a beautiful love story, okay? And a beautiful exploration on how duty, how the idea of not doing what you should be doing can affect your psychology. It's Philip Roth is a great psychologist. I mean, like, wow, he shows you someone's mind, and you're like, dude, you're so weird. But it makes all the sense, When you read this book, when you get to the end, you're like, I cannot understand. I would never think the way you think, but I can understand why you think this way. Okay, so it's an experiment on how to become someone else for a brief 150 pages. You can get that. So this is our semester. This is what we'll try to construct together. Two of our authors are 20th century classics. Okay, this is Kurt Vonnegut here. You can see that he's a funny guy, right? The other one, obviously, is Joseph Conrad, right? Very respectable. Then Ian McEwan right here, and Philip Roth. Okay, and finally, our global authors, Pär Lagerkvist is here, and also Joseph Conrad once again, because he's Polish after all, right? He's writing in the language that he wrote everything in English, but he was not born in any English-speaking country. Actually, he only learned English after his 20s. So he learned it as an adult, and that is quite interesting. And he did so by reading newspapers. So I'm very fond of his example. Actually, we should make videos for Instagram for marketing, because Joseph Conrad professes to have learned English exactly the same way we teach in here. So that is saying something, yeah. So those are the people we were reading. And just one last explanation, you might have noticed that they are all dudes, right? They're all guys in here. And this is a first in a book of mine. We always take a lot of care to balance women and men, to balance it out. Sometimes there are a bit less women in our courses, and then in another course there's a bit more, so we try to balance it out. Sometimes we don't reach perfect equilibrium, but we try. This semester there is one course which is focusing on the Bronte sisters, so all girls, and so this one will be the one focusing on guys. Okay, and since we're talking a lot about war and conflict and aggression and violence, we felt that it is okay to do that.